Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for everyone being here tonight. First of all, I'd like to clarify why I'm here and Karina, she's not here tonight. There's a good reason for that. She's about to give birth, and but we know that she's with us in thoughts. We'd like to wish her and send her our good thoughts as well, and the best of luck for her. And I'd like to thank you very much for everyone who is here tonight to celebrate the third year of anniversary of this house. And thank you for Maria Novelli, who is going to give the lecture tonight about Spiritism and its moral consequences to humanity. And as usual, we are going to start with opening prayer, and then pass the word to Maria. Let us now, united in thoughts, leave outside our daily problems and focus in our studies and good thoughts to make connection with God in our Master Jesus, and enjoy this time when we are united to learn a bit more about Spiritism and make use of those lovely that lovely doctrine which we have in our hands. Make use those in our daily life, wishing to people everything in good that we can transmit to them in energy and love, and pray for those who can't be here tonight. Thank you, God. Look for us, so be it.
Good evening, everyone. We would like to thank the Oxford Spiritist Study Group for the invitation to be here this evening and to study a bit about Spiritism. We also would like to ask for our Master Jesus to involve us, all of us, spirits here, incarnate and discarnate, in His peace, and help the speaker of tonight, whose first language is not English, which has a very strong, albeit charming Brazilian accent. So we will start our talk today looking at the moral consequences that Spiritism brings to humanity. We're going to bring our thoughts on what Spiritism means to all of us, and how we can apply its principles in our daily lives so that it can generate positive consequences to us. When we think about Spiritism and when we study it, we will see that there will be the triple aspect of Spiritism in our lives. That will touch science, that will touch philosophy, and that will touch on the moral consequences, which can also be seen as the religious aspects of Spiritism. When we focus on the scientific aspects of Spiritism, we're going to understand and study the spirit and its relation with the corporeal or material world and the spiritual world. We will see that we right now are within a physical reality which is temporary, and we will eventually go back to our nature, to our natural reality, which is a spiritual reality. When we focus on the philosophical aspects of Spiritism, we're going to seek to answer the questions that humanity had for millions of years, which is, where do we come from? Does God really exist? Where are we supposed to go, or where we're destined to go? Why do we suffer? Why do we have problems? Why are there so many different social aspects, cultural aspects within our society nowadays, and that there's always been? So these are the aspects that Spiritism enlighten us. But we will really focus on the moral consequences to humanity. And that's bring our thoughts to our planet, to the humanity within Earth, within the world. And when we think about the world, through the data and the statistics that we currently have, we're going to think that we are 7 billion people at this very minute inhabiting this world. And the spiritual reality, through the mediumship of Chico Xavier, bringing the teachings of André Luiz from the spiritual world, will come to tell us that only 1/4 of humanity is incarnated on Earth. 3/4 are immortal spirits, not within the body reality. So if we do our maths correctly, there is about 28 billion spirits on Earth, 7 billion which are incarnated, and 21 billion which are discarnated. And we interact, we connect, whether we know, whether we're conscious about it or not, whether we believe it or not. This is a fact that is now proven and studied by Spiritism. There are other data and statistics about the world which are amazing to us. If we try to date the Earth, it's about 4.6 billion years old. This is maths or numbers that we can't even comprehend. It's difficult to calculate. And back in the 1960s, there was a geologist called Mr. Teddy, and through an essay that he's written about the age of the Earth, he tries to explain it to us in a way that's easier for us to comprehend. He says to us, let's make an analysis. Let's make a comparison. If we were to compare 4.6 billion years to 1 year, and if we think that this year will start at 1 second past midnight on the 1st of January, and it will end at midnight on the 31st of December, so 1 entire year, how would that look to us? So he does a timeline to try and compare it within our yearly calendar. So the first couple of months, so if we look January through April, the world cools down. So when we think of the formation of the world, that incandescent, or that fireball, if we were to explain it in a simpler way, it starts to cool down. So that would be the comparison for us. At the end of May, the single-cell organisms will start to be seen. When we reach the end of June, so a month later, the multi-cell organisms will start to be seen. Then we look further down the line. In November, the Cambrian period will start. When we study the Cambrian period, that's when the more complex multi-cell organisms start to be formed. It's life in a much more complex way through the evolutionary period. We carry on in early December as we prepare for Christmas. Plants will start to grow on land. Vegetation will move from the oceans to land. As we reach the 12th of December, the dinosaurs will appear. We talked about dinosaurs today. So they will start to appear by the 12th of December. And it's amazing because the dinosaurs were in the world for about 100 million years. So that's a comparison that this geologist does for us. By the 23rd of December, the first forests will start to grow and appear. And after Christmas, the first cities and civilizations in the world. When we reach 22 seconds before midnight, so nearly through the end of that massive evolutionary period, the Egyptians will build the pyramids, which is an example of extraordinary architecture that till this date we are unable to explain how this happened. And then 0.7 seconds before midnight, the US will declare its independence in 1776. And we ask ourselves, this is such a complex process. It's taken 4.6 billion years. Why? What does that mean to us? Why all this trouble? And the Spiritist doctrine will explain to us that the universe was created for the Spirit, for each one of us, to assist and help us in our evolution at the same time that will help the evolution of the universe through our thoughts, actions, and feelings. When we try to understand and feel this new reality, we feel a little bit more valued and special, that we are part of this, and this was created for each one of us. And that brings us to a thought and a principle that Spiritism teaches us, that the world is one school amongst billions. In 1998, telescope Hubble managed to capture that in the universe there is 125 billion galaxies. That's what, as far as that telescope can go. And we wouldn't be that silly to just say that that is the reality. We understand through the Spiritist doctrine that there are many other houses in our Father's mansions, as Jesus has taught us in John's Gospel. When we understand this, we will also study through Spiritism that these many houses in our Father's mansions are all undergoing different evolutionary processes. And Earth, our house, for the moment, is under an evolutionary stage of trials and expiations. What that would mean to us is that we are all undergoing trials, which are experiences that help us evolve or prompt us to evolve. The choices are ours at the end of the day. And expiations will be the results of the trials that we didn't want to face, that we left behind, that we were rebels and chose not to embrace. And those will be the hardest experience, those that sometimes we complain about, we don't like to go through them. But it's understandable that we are going through different phases and stages. And we understand as well that the world is going through a regeneration process to change from a world of trials and expiations to a world of regeneration. And we are part of this process. When we read the Gospel according to Spiritism, right at the first lessons, when we read the preface, the Spirit of Truth will bring us this message that the time has come for each one of us. When he says, "In truth, I say unto you, the times are come when all things will be established in their true light, when the darkness shall be dissipated, the prideful confounded, and the just glorified." He's telling us that right here, right now, is the exact moment that we can choose to become part of a world of regeneration. But it's not as simple as that, because nothing in the universe is privilege. Everything is a conquest that will require efforts from each one of us to be able to deserve this world of regeneration. And it's not for us to live for tomorrow what we can do today, because Spiritism tells us that it's a choice of ours, but also that we should endeavor to become better today than we were yesterday, and tomorrow better than today. And that's why the Spirit of Truth adverts us, calls our attention that the time has come, and it's now. We can see, it's not only on the books, but we can see through the world's change. We can see through the revolutions that are taking place, financial crisis, natural disasters, which through the Spiritist viewpoint are all mechanisms of progress, if we can put ourselves to see it that way. If we are focused on the negative, those will be very bad things happening to us and to others in our lives. But if we put ourselves to try and see it from a spiritual point of view, these are mechanisms calling us to move, that the time has come right here, right now, prompting us to change. And this new world of regeneration, obviously, it's seeking for new citizens, because the citizens that do not change to accompany this progress will struggle to live with the new citizens that are within this new proposal. And in question 913 of the Spiritist book, Allan Kardec asked the spirits, the spirit benefactors of humanity. Which among the vices may be regarded as the root to our problems? His question is really clever here. Which of the vices that we all have can be regarded as the root? Why does he say root? We asked ourselves in this question, why does he highlight the root? When we analyze a tree, for example, as you can see here, why do we focus on the root? What happens if a tree grows widely and we cut the branches only? What happens? They will grow back again. In months' time, they will all be back again. What happens if we cut the trunk? They will grow. It will take a little bit longer because we're masking it with a sort of longer lasting cover-up, but it will eventually grow back again. So Kardec is asking so that we don't waste time and we go directly to the root cause of our problems. So it's a very profound question that he presents to the spirits so that we can actually seek to resolve, not to masquerade, but resolve truthfully our problems. And the spirits will answer the question. Selfishness, as we have repeatedly told you, for it's from selfishness that every evil proceeds. Everything evil proceeds. Study all the vices and you will see selfishness is at the bottom of them all. So the study of tonight will be a highlight of some of these vices, which can be presented as branches, but can also be seen and seek to be seen as root cause of our problems, of our suffering, of our conflicts that we have nowadays, being them intimate conflicts or conflicts that we have within society in a collective manner, because it's a result of our intimate ones. When we look at the branches, we will study with the spirit Hermance Dufault. She was part of the codification of Spiritism. She was one of the mediums that supported Allan Kardec through the messages of the superior world to earth in order for us to progress. And she works now from the spiritual realm. She works from the spiritual world, assisting in a hospital who receives spirits who discarnate in experiences of suffering, trying to adapt to the new reality. And a lot of these spirits that arrive in the spiritual world come also from the Spiritist harvest. They're talking about us as well, that although we know and we have access to the knowledge of Spiritism, if we don't leave it within and just try to show on the exterior the principle of Spiritism, that doesn't change us from within. And we may arrive in the spiritual world disappointed because we may have big expectations of what to see in there, but have built little during the time that we were here. So she proposes to us in this book that is called Mereça Ser Feliz, which would be deserve to be happy, these experiences of several spirits in the situation and helping us to identify these root causes of our problems so that we can work them right here, right now, because the Spirit of Truth told us that the time has come. So selfishness, pride, vanity, greed, hate, things that we don't know. They don't happen to us. They happen to people outside, not us. Jealousy, for example, none of us are jealous here, right? We've all overcome it. There is a story about jealousy, which will show us that it's not worthwhile cultivating this feeling. And if we can identify it within ourselves and work through it the soonest we can, the quicker we'll free ourselves from this conflict. There's a story about a couple who had this problem of jealousy. So the wife was very jealous. She wanted to control her husband all the time. So when he left the house at 8 o'clock in the morning to go to the office, he would tell her, honey, I'm leaving the house. 9 o'clock, he'd get to the office, call her back, say, hello, honey, just arrived at work. Lovely, bye-bye. 10:30, in his coffee break, honey, I'm going on my coffee break. I'll be back in the office in 15 minutes. At 12 o'clock, honey, just calling, I'm going for my lunch break. 1 o'clock, honey, back in the office from my lunch break. 3:30 in the afternoon, darling, going for my coffee break. And at 5 o'clock, I'm leaving the office, should be home in an hour. And then he would get home at 6 o'clock, honey, I'm home. And that was his routine throughout the day to ensure he kept his missus happy. But one day, he left home at 8 o'clock, called her at 9 to say he was at work, called her again at 10:30 to say he was going for his coffee break. 1 o'clock, honey, midday, honey, I'm going to my lunch. 1 o'clock, back from my lunch. 3:30, coffee break. 5 o'clock, going home. 6 o'clock, he didn't make home. He was involved in a car accident and returned to the spiritual world. During his funeral, everyone went to pay the respects to his existence, a very decent man. His missus was there, crying and thanking for all the support he's given her during life. It was very beautiful with a picture of him. And all of a sudden, you can see this lady and this little child walk into the room. And the little child sees the picture of the man and runs towards the picture, saying, "Daddy, Daddy." The wife all of a sudden stands up, trying to understand what's happening. "What is happening? Who are you?" she says to the woman that walks in. And the woman says, "I'm the 12 to 1 lunchtime break lady." So we can all realize that even if we try to control other people's life because we don't trust them unless they tell us every single move, we don't trust them if they don't tell us back that they love us, that we will realize that we are actually not loving ourselves. It lacks self-love in humanity, so that we can trust within ourselves and extend that trust to the other person. And even if the other person doesn't respond to the way that we would like, we have loved ourselves and therefore allow the other to love or not love us back. So we will see that jealousy is not worth it in humanity. And these are like venomous plants to the soul, the stems of which must be pulled daily. So we should work in a proposal to analyze and see all these branches and roots within us and try to work daily to be able to re-educate them. We can't take these things away from us. They're part of what we are, but we can re-educate and change our feelings and thoughts. Their antidote, will tell us Hermans Dufault, is charity and humbleness. Charity representing the good that I do to myself and unto others, and humbleness is the constant exercise of being an apprentice in life, being a constant learner, trying to be better today than I was yesterday, tomorrow better than today. We will see them in further detail. During this process and in this book, we will see a beautiful speech presented by Barçanufo, who was a pioneer in Spiritism in Brazil. He was the founder of the first college, Spiritist college, that will focus on the education of Spiritism, focusing predominantly on the moral teachings of Spiritism. And he is, in this book, presenting a speech to start a course for all the spirits in this location, in this hospital, so that they can leave the principles of Christianity, the principles of Spiritism from within. And he tells us in this speech, Jesus' educational proposal aims for happiness, and his pedagogy is based on love and hope. This happiness, however, comes at a price. The price to build the kingdom of heaven, alluded by the Master in the intimacy of every being. So that is the price we all have to pay if we want to build the kingdom of heaven within us, if we want to achieve this educational proposal, and if we want to reach happiness. But we will understand as well, through Spiritism, that happiness is not the end of the line. It's the way we walk to the end of the line. The end of the line will represent evolution for us. It will be intellectual and moral growth. But happiness can be lived right here, right now. The happiness that is relative to us, not the happiness that we seek on the material and temporary things and values, but the happiness to fulfilling our duties, the happiness to be able to spread happiness to others, the happiness to be able to overcome a shortcoming, to overcome a vice. These are all the proposals of happiness that are available to us right here, right now. But they come at a price. And we will see what that price means to each one of us. There is a message from Hermance Dufault as well to all of us. Spiritists are those who are in favor of the Spiritist teachings. And she says, "You are keepers of an unending treasure, which is Spiritism. However, many of you lack the urgent and humble analysis of the issues it considers." She's telling us that we lack, first of all, urgency. We just say, we'll leave it for tomorrow. Have no time today. Have to go to work. Have to do my shopping. Have to go and watch my program on TV. I have to go and be online a little bit. So I will leave it for another day. And that day never comes. And we lack the humble analysis. Because we consider ourselves, we know enough. I don't need to look for more. I don't need to dig deeper. I don't need anyone's opinion, because mine will suffice. So these are the aspects that we lack, she tells us. And she also tells us, in light of the ever-increasing number of hearts which share the same ideology that carry over to the extra-physical life, exaggerated expectations of salvation and elevation due to the superficial movements in the commitments of the blessed Spiritist harvest. What does that mean to us? We think because we go once a week to the Spiritist Center, we think that because once a week we go and we do charitable work, that we read the books, that we are already ready, that when we get to the spiritual world, we'll find salvation. We still bring some of the paradigms that were shared a few hundred thousand years ago through the different experiences that we've been in reincarnation. So we may have been introduced, for example, to a different aspect of a Christian belief a few hundred years ago, and we still bring the idea that salvation is something that if I do in the exterior, it will be guaranteed to me when I reach the spiritual world. Spiritism comes to teach us that salvation is re-education. No one can give it to us. And it's not through a few movements, superficial movements, that I do, either within the Spiritist movement or either within a charitable work, that will guarantee that to me, because it's an intimate state. It's not a state of me showing in the exterior that I'm busy studying, that I'm busy moving, helping within the Spiritist society. All of this is very positive. But if it's not reflecting intimate change within us, then we need to reevaluate our goals, reevaluate what Spiritism means to us. Are there any moral consequences as a result of me going to the Spiritist Center? Can I notice from 1 month ago to now if I managed to change anything, if I've managed to overcome a conflict, if I am already working on a conflict and see something more positively? 6 months from now, will I analyze if anything changed? Life is constant change. If I'm not participating of this change in a positive manner, then I have a red flag. Something's not going quite right. And that's what she tells us here. What's the impediment then to build this kingdom of heaven within us, to reach happiness that we so seek to reach? Allan Kardec, in posthumous work, will tell us in a message that's called Pride and Selfishness. The main cause lies in the false idea that man has of his nature, his past, and his future. Spiritism will teach us that we are immortal spirits. That doesn't mean that I feel that way. That doesn't mean most of the time that I think that way. It's just a knowledge, intellectual knowledge. What we need to endeavor to do is to actually feel it in our daily lives. Make choices that reflect a choice of a immortal spirit through the teachings of Jesus in the gospel. Those are teachings for immortality. So the main problem, Allan Kardec will tell us, the main impediment is that we forget our nature, our spiritual nature, our capacity and our values within, that we are able to develop and overcome shortcomings. We forget our past, where we came from. We came from God. That means a lot. And we forget our future, which is not here within the material reality, but is the spiritual world that we actually build in the present. I can only build my future in the present. So I can't expect to arrive in the spiritual worlds seeking for that false salvation if I haven't built the salvation in the present. Pride, which is mentioned as one of the impediments, what does that mean to us? Is the feeling of personal superiority resulting from the natural growth process of the spirit. It's a byproduct of self-preservation instinct, tells us Hermance Dufault. So pride in itself, it's not negative, Spiritism will tell us, because we do need a little pride within our lives. Pride is a product or a byproduct of the self-preservation instinct. What does the self-preservation instinct does for us? It keeps us away from danger. It keeps us away from harm. It is a message that we may be entering somewhere that we shouldn't. It's not suitable for us. It won't cause us any good. But also, pride will assist us in growing self-esteem, elevated self-esteem. What Spiritism will tell us is the excess of pride. It's the exaggeration of pride that we build a false image of ourselves. We think that we're much bigger than what we are. And that's what we need to build within, the actual values that will make us morally stronger, not superficially stronger. Because the vision of the world, generically, is that the stronger is the one that shouts the loudest, is the one that can conquer the many other material aspects. But Spiritism will teach us that the real strength is the one that comes from within. It's to be able to stay in a difficult situation, re-educate our emotions, that we can cleverly overcome these situations, and not necessarily be the one that shouts the loudest. But one of the largest strengths that humanity lacks is silence. The elevated spirit tells us that if humanity silenced a little bit more, we would do so good. They would be able to act in the world in such a positive manner, but we are still very loud. So moving forward about pride, Hermance Dufault will tell us about the matrix of pride. How does that function within us? Its main action is in the inner life, takes place in the mental department of imagination, in which is stored the oversized matrix image we have of ourselves. So in our mental process, we've got a little department called imagination. And in this department, we create an oversized matrix of ourselves, an oversized picture of ourselves. From this matrix, which has its own life as a second personality, is streamlined and processed a whole complex of moral and emotional values that regulates the routine of the majority of operations of the psychological and emotional being, determining attitudes, words, choices, aspirations, and tastes. So we can see through our attitudes, to our beliefs, through our aspirations, this oversized image, this oversized illusion of ourselves. She carries on now, explaining us that there will be many illusions of pride present that we can actually identify through some different behaviors that we may engage. She will first explain how this happens. She tells us that only pride can prevent you from seeing what you really are. So if we are proud, it will be difficult for us to admit that we have flaws. It will be really hard. But if you don't see it, others will see it for you. So if we're not conscious of how we behave, of how we feel, how we think, other people will see it in our behavior. So Spiritist doctrine will help us, directing us to self-knowledge. So if I know what's within, I no longer need others to point it for me. I'll know it first, and I'll re-educate it first. She carries on telling us that this feeling creates an illusion, a distortion of reality, the mental representation of what we are generated by pride, which almost always meets personalistic interests, can be considered as a real pathology. So within psychiatrists' offices, psychotherapists, they will be studying all the pathologies as a result of pride. A false self-image that we create, that will create a lot of harm for us, because a lot of energy goes into putting these masks to show to friends, to society, to work, something that we are not. And we will endeavor to lie and be dishonest to ourselves to try and maintain this false image. And that causes us a lot of pathologies and a lot of imbalance, emotional imbalance. So one of the illusions of pride that we can see, and Hermance Dufault teaches us, is touchiness, which is a wounded pride. What does that mean? If somebody criticizes me or said something about me that I didn't like, I will be resenting that for a long, long time. I'll be thinking about it. Somebody said that to me. I feel so much sorrow. I feel so sorry for myself that somebody, how dare could they say that to me? I work so hard. I'm so good to that person. So this is touchiness. And Hermance Dufault tells us that behind touchiness, there's pride. Underneath touchiness, there's pride, because that's the wounded pride. So she invites us to cultivate the courage to be criticized. If we are humble, or if we seek to be humble, and we understand that being humble means that we are seeking to be apprentices in life, that we are learners in the evolutionary process, because we are at the beginning of this evolutionary process, then criticism is positive for us. Feedback is essential, because I may not be aware of a behavior. I may not be aware of an emotion that I carry. So it's very positive, even if it's not delivered the way we would like. Touchy softness. If it's delivered in a hard manner, then that will tell us that sometimes if we feel it hard, it means that we've got wounded pride. She carries on telling us about pretension, which is pride in the aspirations. Learn to settle for the joy of working and serving without personal expectations. And when we say personal expectations, it wouldn't be that we will set aspirations that could be positive to us. This would be aspirations set by the ego aspects. So wanting to be recognized by people, doing the good so people will see that I'm becoming better. This is what you're telling us, to re-educate, to be able to work and serve without expecting a thank you, without expecting a recognition from the exterior, but to do that because we have the wish to grow, we have the truthful and sincere wish to become better, regardless of what others will think of us. Another one is presumption, which is pride in the knowledge. So we think we know a lot and we don't take everybody's opinion. So she invites us to take as a general guidance that every opinion should be listened to with a desire to learn. How do I know that I'm presumptuous? When somebody comes to tell me something that I am not interested, I go and I start traveling mentally to different locations, can't even be bothered to look at their eyes when they're talking to me. And I can't actually say what that person has just told me. So she's asking us, or she's inviting us to re-educate presumption and taking as a guidance that every opinion should be considered. Who are we to say that the other person has no material, has nothing that can help us? So that's what she's inviting us to leave. Prejudice, which is pride in the conceptions. This is when I judge something from the surface before allowing time to analyze. And if we look at Hermance Dufault in the beginning, she says we lack the urgent and humble analysis. So we don't analyze, we just judge things superficially. So cultivate the habit to maintain impartial and flexible analysis. And Allan Kardec has been the impartial and flexible analyst as excellence, teaching us how to be able not to put personal opinions, but to analyze facts. through this analysis, we will become more flexible. We will be able to open our hearts, open our minds to what is unknown to us, to what's different to what we normally do. Another illusion of pride is indifference, which is pride in the sensitivity. We've staged in experience so far away from us, so far away from our emotions, we don't know them, that we become insensitive. We become indifferent to other people's problems. And that's what she asks us. She invites us. Choose the acceptance and respect for all occasions of success and failure that others may experience. Inviting us to accept the choices that others make, to understand that they may be going through pain and difficult times, but we can only do that if we exercise that within ourselves, if we educate our emotions by learning them, because indifference means that I don't know my sentimental side. I'm distant from my emotional aspect. Disdain is pride in the understanding. Get used to thinking that for God everything has value, even if for now we don't understand. So disdain means that if I don't understand something, if it's not within my scope, I will disregard it completely. I won't open myself for this new idea, for this new thought. And we've seen through humanity history how many ideas that are now accepted and studied by science that were disregarded, that were taken as crazy ideas, that were taken as false ideas, and are actually now come to be proved as being truth. Personalism is the self-centered pride. Educate the resignation in the attitudes. So this is when I think that the world revolves around me and everything is created to please me. When it doesn't please me, I will be a rebel or I will seek for different experiences. If people don't react to me the way I like, I will then show my true colors. And Hermance Dufault is inviting us to educate the resignation in the attitudes, that things will not always go my way. And thank goodness they don't. Because if they go my way, they will direct me to very painful experiences. Because I am still a child in the evolutionary process. I don't understand natural laws as yet. I can't understand the entire scope of God's laws. In order to do that, like Hermance Dufault told us, I need to pay a price to build the kingdom of heaven within. Vanity is pride in the optical illusion of what one thinks one is. Seek to know yourself and have the courage to accept yourself as you are, doing the best you can in order to self-improve. So vanity can be seen or can be experienced when I think I'm someone that I'm actually not. When I value more the exterior than the values of within. When I frustrate myself if I'm aging, if I don't look the same as I used to look 10 years ago, if the circumstances around me don't look the same. So this shows within that I'm feeding pride, that I'm cultivating pride, and we are invited to accept ourselves as we are, knowing that we can change for better. Envy, which we don't experience ever, is pride before the victory of others. And we ask ourselves, how do we feel when somebody succeeds, especially in something that we would like to succeed as well? We come to learn in Spiritism that envy means that I want to have the victory that the other had without making any effort. I want it given it to me for free, especially if I'm in the comfort of my home. If I could order online and have delivered the same day, then even better. That's what envy means. It means that I do not want to make the movements to conquer these values myself. So she invites us to admit that we have this feeling, because then we will become stronger and face it with dignity and humbleness. How do I learn now to be happy with somebody else's success? There is a saying of an unknown author that says that in humanity we are more forgiven when somebody makes a mistake than when somebody succeeds. Then that tells us that we have a lot of teaching and a lot of inner education in order to work and be happy when somebody succeeds into something. Knowing that the benefactors of humanity did not reach that state by privilege of God. They have worked hard. We forget that, don't we? We see them in the pedestals. We see them in this states of intelligence and moral evolution. But we don't forget. We tend to forget what they've gone through to achieve all of that. And it's the price that we have to in order to achieve it too. False modesty is the pride of the artificial humbleness. It's when I say I'm so good and I do this loving face and I'm all sweet on the exterior because I lack the self-love. I lack the confidence and I'm seeking for others to approve, to say that I'm really good so that I can feel better about myself. She's asking us to strive for simplicity that comes from the soul without wanting to impress. So inviting us to analyze, have I been wanting to impress others? Do I need others' acceptance in order to carry on and move forward? If I don't have their acceptance, do I stop in the middle of the way? Saying, poor me, only with me these things happen. I'm so good, and yet everyone disappoints me. So if I'm within this behavior, that I should analyze, that I cultivate pride and strive for simplicity, free myself from the approval of others. Arrogance is pride of the power. Learn to have the inner power, transforming arrogance in authority. So that's a proposal that the spiritual benefactors already live. They've got moral authority, but not because they shout the loudest. Not because of that, but because they've conquered themselves, their inner world. Concealment is the pride in appearances. So strive to be who you are without fear, loving yourself as you are. So I don't hide behind masks. I don't hide behind a false image of myself. How about the consequences of pride? Emmanuel, in the book Pensamento e Vida, which means thought and life, in a message called Humbleness, will tell us the consequences of pride in humanity. He says to us that due to the lack of humbleness, it appears in the human soul sickening encystments, like nodules within us. You know, when we have sore throat and sometimes we have little lumps? So this is what he says. It appears in the human soul sickening lumps in the form of pride and greed, selfishness and vanity, which are responsible for discord and delinquency in all directions. And these encystments, these lumps that will appear in our soul, will cause further consequences. But he will teach us that humbleness, what does that mean? How can we understand it in our terms of living? He says that humbleness is the inner freedom that promotes the ongoing renovation for the good. So it's an experience of freedom, of simplicity, that will promote an ongoing renovation. When I am truthfully humble, when I am sincerely endeavoring to be humble, I will start every day with the same motivation, the task that I may have not succeeded yesterday. I will start it because I am an apprentice, I'm a learner in life. And that's what humbleness means. And that generates freedom for us because we don't stipulate that we have to be better. We don't stipulate that we are already perfect. Why am I making mistakes? This is not humbleness. Humbleness will be, I've made a mistake. I want to be better, so I will try today to succeed in this experience, knowing that I am a learner in life and I will make mistakes along the way, but I will try my best right here, right now, not tomorrow, right here, right now, because I understand the time has come. How does this happen then, the result of selfishness and pride? In complete disregard for his real condition of spirit, temporarily passing through the evolutionary stages, appropriating of the current existence in a particularist sense, converts his soul in a city of illusion. So whenever I choose as a spirit to go through the experiences of life, appropriating of it, of this experience, as if I am the body, not the spirit, with concepts that are not real, with values that will seek to exist, which are materialistic values, particularistic values, I will convert my soul in a city of illusion that will bring me consequences. How does the symptoms of these diseases, of these encystments, of these lumps appear to us? He says that possessed by the spirit of exclusivist possession, the soul easily embraces despair and jealousy, spite and intemperance, which creates a psychic tension from which dangerous organic syndromes are derived. And we can see the psychic tension everywhere in our daily lives. We can see it at work, we can see it on the train, on our way to work, when we are so worried about losing the values that are not real, so worried about conquering more in a materialistic sense, that we build this tension that we're going to lose it at any minute, and then somebody all of a sudden steps in our foot. And instead of understanding that this could happen, we explode, and then we can see this tension building up in every little single encounter and experience we have in our daily lives that will cause dangerous organic syndromes, such as nervous depression. We understand that according to the World Health Organization, there are 2 million depressives in the world as we speak. So we can see that this is a result of pride and selfishness. Emotional imbalance. We don't know our emotions, so we're guided by them. And we enter despair. We enter imbalance. Gastric ulceration. We don't suffer from it in humanity. And cellular dysfunction. When we hear the word cellular dysfunction, what comes to mind? Cancer. So when we see it in the doctor's office in the future, and we will ask why we're undergoing this experience, the diagnosis will be selfishness and pride. How does that make us think and feel? And we've got a lot of work, but it's doable through the analysis, through understanding that such behaviors that we have in our daily lives represent selfishness and pride, inviting us to build charity, to build humbleness through the experiences we have. And Emmanuel presents a humbleness therapy for us, inviting us to analyze Jesus' stay and examples, especially from the time he was here with us till the time he departed, knowing that he is our spiritual leader, he's the governor of this planet, of Earth, but he's given us the example, which Emmanuel brings us, reflecting it from heaven to earth. As a pledge of redemption and beauty, the Christ of God was born in a manger surrounded by straws and said goodbye to humanity through the arms of the cross. This is a metaphorical, but real example that Jesus has given us. And Emmanuel will teach us what does that mean in actual terms. It means that, for example, being born in a manger represents humbleness, humility for us. But we think it's because, it's a simple place. There were lovely animals nearby. It was in an open sky, further from the luxuries of a welcoming, warm home. But Emmanuel says it is much further than that. We're focusing on the exterior to analyze it. Let's focus on the real meaning, which is intimate. So being born in a manger means to cultivate this. It's moving forward without holding back. It means that despite of where I come from, the experiences that brought me to this world, whether they were favorable or not, whether I came from a favorable background or not, I have the chance right here, right now, to move forward without holding back, without pointing to my past as a consequence for me right now not succeeding. And how about saying goodbye to humanity through the arms of the cross? What does that mean, living the humbleness therapy? It means to project the best of yourself even on the ways of the world. It's to forget all evil and start happily the task of loving every day. So through this example, we will see that being born on the manger, like Christ has exemplified to us, will mean that we can succeed in the world even if we had bad experiences, even if we made mistakes. We can succeed. We can project the best of what we can. I can try to be the best I can. But spirits say that we don't really try that hard. We have the capacity to try harder. And living through the arms of the cross. The arms represent work. Putting our arms and hands into action is work. And that work is starting happily the task that I initiated yesterday. Continue to do it today and endeavor to be better every day. Kardec will tell us that through the experiences in life, through selfishness and pride, we will establish spiritual connections, whether we like it or not, whether we're conscious of it or not. And he tells us that all moral imperfections are so many open doors, giving access to evil spirits. But what brings us most often under their influence is pride, because it's the defect which of all others we are least apt to recognize within ourselves. So let's have the courage to analyze ourselves and actually see that we have pride within, to be worked and transformed in humbleness. We will understand through Hermance Dufault what the real happiness will mean in our ways, endeavoring to bring Spiritism to transform our lives, to live its principles that it will generate positive consequences for us and for those around us. Hermance Dufault will tell us that real happiness is to enjoy the natural. We all have to enjoy the natural right to be happy, and it's not enough simply to comply with some recipes of conduct, like formulas ready for immediate use. Worthiness is a sentimental state to be conquered, a feeling without which we remain hostage of the tyranny of guilt and fear. If I don't conquer these values from within, I will always be fearful that I will lose them because they're not real. I haven't worked to build them from within. And also, if I am showing an image in the exterior that is not real, most of the time I'll feel guilty because I don't live the experience from within. The real happiness, she will tell us, according to the teachings that she sees within the spiritual world, that there are many hearts breathing in this regime of pain as a source of salvation, that are angry, unhappy, hateful, about to commit an evil act, feeding the unfortunate idea that they're burning their debts. We have the false illusion that by being in Spiritism and undergoing difficult experiences, that those difficult experiences are burning our debts from past lifetimes in which we made mistakes. This is an illusion, she's telling us. We don't have to suffer. That's not the proposal of God and life for us. God created us to achieve love and self-love, to be happy. So if we're going through painful experiences, let's embrace a proposal of happiness. Let's embrace a proposal of changing for the better, because only the fact of going through a difficult situation and suffering but not doing anything to move away or to transform the experience will not bring me that false idea of salvation. The proposal of Spiritism is education. It's seeking to build this kingdom of heaven. It's seeking to become better. It's seeking to transform and generate moral consequences within us. And if we analyze the wisdom of the Spirit of Truth, when it comes to our rescue, saying, only through the good we repair the evil. That's a principle of Spiritism. Only through the good that I do now, I can rewrite the history of my past. My good actions today will make the bad actions of yesterday change, transform. But that's not enough, he will say to us. So only through the good we repair the evil, and the repair has no merit if it does not reach the man in his pride, nor in his material interests. So if I do the good superficially, only in the exterior, but I am not transforming pride, I'm not changing all those aspects and illusions of pride that I still cultivate, and if I am not renouncing, if I'm not resigning from my material concepts, from my material interests, will represent for me selfishness, I will not evolve from within. I will show in the exterior, and I may cultivate the illusion that when I arrive in the spiritual world, that I will be received by benefactor spirits, that I will be in a balanced situation. I will not. I will be a consequence of what I am here, right now. I'll be exactly as I am here, right now. Because the kingdom of heaven is not a geographic place situated somewhere that I can't point. or I can analyze. It's a state of mind. It's an intimate state. I can choose a state of heaven if I do good, if I choose to work on my vices, if I choose to become better today than I was yesterday, tomorrow better than today. Or I can choose a state of mind of hell if I cultivate pride, if I cultivate envy, because that will generate consequences that I will live by. So the proposal of Spiritism is to bring our thoughts into ourselves, considering ourselves and feeling as immortal spirits, applying the principles of Spiritism in our daily lives so that we can gradually re-educate pride and selfishness, which keeps us away from belonging to a new world of regeneration, to become part of this new civilization. But in order to do that, we are invited to become the new citizen through an educational process that starts from within. Is there any questions that anyone has on the... I know we're nearly reaching the end, or we've reached the end of our talk today, and we ask for the blessing and protection of Jesus today and always. So be it.
Thank you, everyone, once more. Thank you, Maria Novelli, for being here at the Oxford Spiritist Study Group, for the lovely words